These times are strange, it's quite surreal. It's never been like this. Remembering the good old days, we could hug and kiss. We'd pack the gyms and restaurants and move through public settings. We'd give high fives and drink at dives, hold hands and dance at weddings. Now the days are longer, yet they're darker in a way. We're pressing pause on normalcy, just going day by day. But we can still make jokes and art, garden, dance and sing, cook, read books, try on fun looks and learn about new things. We can talk with friends of ours and have a heart to heart, just so long as we'll stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. A toast to this spooky evening. I'm your hostess for this evening. I'm your witch for the evening. My name is Raven, short for Stark Raven, if you get my drift. My cauldron's making a lot of noise here, so I'm just going to move it out of the way. All right, there we go. Raven, I'm so happy to be here. It's going to be a great evening. Some of you may have been here last year when I was hosting, and so welcome back. And if you weren't here, well, just welcome. You know, it's been a crazy year. Lockdown was hard. Lockdown was hard for the witch community. I don't know if you know, but we're a social group, you know, and you might think that we just like to sit around and in our huts and stir the cauldron and make some potions, but we like to get together. And I had just joined a coven before the lockdown, and you know, it was the Get Some Lovin' Coven, and it's kind of like a Match.com for witches, and I was really excited. And actually, I hoped it was going to lead to the Get a Bun in the Oven coven, because I haven't had small children in quite a while since Hansel and Gretel came by for a snack. So the whole thing just went, you know, sideways with the lockdown. It just didn't work for me. I have been binge watching a lot. Been binge watching some shows on my favorite platform, which is Hetflix. So all the witches like Hexflix, and they've got it all. They've got everything from, you know, the Little Mermaid to the Witches of Eastwick. They even have some racier titles, as in What's Under Your Robes, and also the Broomstick and the Cauldron. You know, if you get my drift on that one. So things are opening up a bit. You know, maybe one day I'll be able to get a haircut, because look at this. This is ladies. Am I right? This is crazy. So we can get some travel. I can get on the broom and, you know, put on a mask and travel around the world. Looking forward to that. But speaking of travel, I know we have some folks here on YouTube that are from all over the world, all over the states, and we're happy to have you here. And we also have our backstage audience. So we want to show our backstage audience. We love having you here. We'll get a shot of you up, and everybody can, yay! We're happy to have that backstage audience. Everybody is looking good. We've got some crazy outfits going on there, some background. My witch voice is going. I'm going to need to drink a little of that special brew. But speaking of travel, we've got storytellers that are from everywhere, and we're going to get our thrills and chills started. We're going to meet our first storyteller, and he blends his talents as a puppeteer, as a mime, as a painter, into all of his performances. He really just becomes his story, and he's been performing and entertaining audiences for over 30 years. And you're going to be amazed. The physicality that he uses is just really awesome, and his voice characterizations, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get to know him a little bit first. So let's bring to our virtual stage, Mr. Jeff Gere.
Yay! I go to all his shows.
He's great, isn't he? I've heard so much about him. Hello,
Yeah.
Jeff. Welcome to the coven that is 6 Feet Apart Productions tonight. And where are you located, and what time is it there?
Honolulu, Hawaii is my home where it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I had to shut the garage so the sunlight wouldn't dim the darkness behind me with light.
Wow. And now what's the temperature there?
It's really a hot day, really a hot day, really a hot day. I have on short pants and I won't tell you what else. A nice shirt because it's a big deal and I ironed it.
Ooh, well, thank you for going the extra mile for us. Now, your birthday is actually on Halloween. And I'm just wondering is when you were young, did you just think everybody was having a costume party for you?
Well, my mother was known to say that she still wasn't sure if it was a trick or a treat.
Well, and I'm wondering if, yeah.
I just like to say that on my birthday, the world goes a little bit askew.
I would say so. I think if I had a child born on Halloween, I'd probably be like, yeah, you know what? You don't really need a cake. You got a lot of candy. We're just going to put a candle in the Three Musketeers and everybody gather around and sing happy Halloween birthday to you.
Many people say it explains a lot of my personality with that fact. Birthday on
probably
Halloween.
Does. It probably does. You have your own astrological sign, I'm sure, just for that one particular day. I don't know what it
Black
is.
cat.
Black cat. Yeah, there you go. And what scared you as a kid? Did anything scare you as a kid?
My father.
Oh, okay. We'll just let that one lie there for a bit
Right.
then.
Baseball, taking a turn at the bat, and big waves, which is why I was so devoted to swimming in the ocean.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if you work any of those into your frightening story tonight. So, ooh, lovely getting to know you, sir. And let's bring him up to the virtual stage and let's hear what he has to say. Ooh.
Here I am. And now let's go. It was the early 90s and I was alive. I was younger than I am now and a little bit more handsome. And I was touring in a place called American Samoa, the island of Tutuila. You can say that at home because I'm listening. Tutuila. That's right. And I was touring with a guy that just passed away. His name is Makia Malo. Hansen's disease, leprosy, Makapo, can't see, sunglasses all the time. His fingers are all stumpy, balance not so good. So I was what you call the guide dog for Makia as we went through American Samoa or Tutuila. What was the name of the island? Tutuila. Now, Samoa doesn't have the trade winds that we're so popular with here in Hawaii. So it's hot. It's hot now. It's hot there every day. You lay in bed. I remember feeling the sweat form and drip down my face. Samoa is hot all the time. And we were driving everywhere to tell stories to kids. Some of the classrooms didn't have anything but dirt floors, but the kids were bright. We had a ball. But man, I move around and I was sweating like bullets. We go back to the art center, chug water and sit by the air conditioner and then go outside and listen to Sven Ortquist, the carver of the art center, tell us stories. And he told us a lot of them about the Taliasi. Now you say that, Taliasi. Taliasi. You might be asking yourself, what the heck does Taliasi mean? The Taliasi are well known in Samoa because they're spirit people. And nobody goes with them. Nobody messes with them. They all know they aren't people. On a Sunday, everybody's going to church. The Taliasi drink beer and throw the cans at the cars. Nobody says a word. They aren't people. Oh, we heard lots of stories. And every day we'd go back to Sven and hear more. Now, our tour was organized by a lady named Cy Stevens, who wrote me a letter of recommendation that started, "Jeff is a kick in the ass." You can bet I used that for years. So Cy would take us over the mountain and we started telling, Cy, we heard these stories about the Taliasi. Oh, that's for real, that's for real. One day she said, "You want to hear a story from my family about the Taliasi?" I'm all ears. She started to say how her two cousins, brothers, had the job for the day to cut the hedge in front of their family house where everybody met. The shears, tick, 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 tick. They're cutting all day, this huge wall of fish. Tick, 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 tick. The sun starts to go down, which is when the church bells start to chime. Everybody goes to church in the morning or the evening, or maybe both. The church is the center of activity. Bong, bong, bong. Hey, we got to go to church. Now, a little bit more. We're almost done. Ding, bong, bong. Hey, we got to go. It's a little bit longer. A little bit longer. No. You know the feeling. Something's there. You don't know what it is, but your nerves do. Turns around. Hello, mother. Can I help you? And there she is. Her face, old, hair, kapakahi, all messed up. Hi, can I help you? Take me to a phono. A phono is as far as you can go on the one stinky little road to the end of the island before you have to turn around. There's no place that's farther away. And this old lady's talking to the boys and telling her that she wants them to take her in a car to a phono. He shows respect. Good idea. Yes, mother, I'll get the car. My brother will talk to you. He throws the hedge clippers underneath the hedge, gets the car. Later on, his brother will say the lady didn't do anything. She just stood there scowling. They get the car. Now the brother's driving. Next to him is his other brother. The brother's talking back in the seat. The old lady gets in and she's all of a sudden talking, conversive. They're having a good time, talking like magpies. The brother is driving the car. It's a bench seat, so you can't really see much. And the other brother is talking. You got it, right? So they're driving and the sun starts to go down. And they go through Pongo Pongo, the biggest town. We would call it not even a town, but it's a stop or a shopping center with other buildings. And then they start going along the 4-lane road. Street lights start to be sparse. It gets to be a 2-lane road. Then it gets to be a 1 lane with some pullouts. I told you Telias Tutuila is like a dragon. It comes down straight. There's that little ribbon of road, and then there's a big, giant lagoon. And at the end of the lagoon, the ocean. They're driving along into the darkness, and the brother who's driving takes his knuckle and hits the brother's knee. Ow! That hurt. What you hitting me for? I didn't do nothing to you. That's really hurting. I don't like that. Don't do that anymore. Yeah. And he notices his brother going, he's like, yeah, you do that again. Pooh, I'm going to boo you. Jeez, oh man. They talking. And the lights are gone. There's no villages now. And it's just the headlights. Like swords stabbing into the darkness and the sound of that ocean. Farther along that little road, the brother again. Do it again. It hurts me. Stop it. I didn't do anything to you. The brother, yeah, but I don't care what you're doing. Stop it. Just don't you do that again. I'm going to pound you if you do. Stop. Forget it. Don't. God. Farther into the darkness. Once again, And for the first time, he really looks at his brother. His brother who's driving, his face is lit up by the console. And you can see the tracks made by the tears running down his face. He sees the terror in his brother's eyes. He's pointing up to the rearview mirror. The brother, huh? What? And he looks. They're both looking in the rearview mirror. They can hear the old lady talking. But when they look in the mirror, there's nobody there. And then the old lady stops talking, and it's all black. The brother finds a place to pull over. He turns the lights off. They're sitting in total blackness. Finally, the brother who's driving says, "Mother, I know we've done something wrong. And I know you've come to punish us. Tell me, is there any way we can save our lives?" From the back of the car. You just did save your life. First, I see you don't go to church. The bell rings, but you don't go. I think I will kill them. But I see you are nice boys. So I say I give you a chance. And I say, take me to a phono you show respect. Good. I let you live a little more. And then you take me into the darkness. And now you are afraid. Good. I see everything. Go to church. Every day you go to church. If you do not, I will know. And if I come again, maybe you're not going to be so lucky. The boys report that they feel the car shift and the springs reek as the weight shifts. The door opens, the door shuts. The brother instantly turns on the car. Brum, brum, brum. They start charging. The lights are on. Brum. They try to turn the car around, but the road's so little. Brum, 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 brum. When they go back to the place they've just come from, they just came down, they've turned around, the lady just got off. They look. But there's nobody there. The woman has just disappeared. I heard that story 30 years ago. It still freaks me out. Respect the traditions of the land you live in, because those traditions still live there too.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Whoa, great job, Jeff.
Hey.
Groovy. Woo!
Hello. Ooh, great story. Great story, Jeff. Thank you so much. Very spooky. I thought I wanted to go to the tropics, but maybe now I will go somewhere else. I used to love the ocean until I heard that story. Thank you so much for that. And I hope you're not too hot in Hawaii. Our next storyteller, we're going to keep the spooky stuff going. She's an award-winning teller and world traveling, award-winning, and she whisks her audience away on journeys of imagination. Nail biters, tall tales, traditional personal stories. My cauldron is getting a little out of hand. Sorry about that. And she has won liars contest. She's a champion liar many times over. At least I think she is. I don't even know if you can believe that. And she holds a master's degree in storytelling from East Tennessee State. And I love that because I can just only imagine that as a young witch. And my mom said, honey, what do you want to major in when you go to witch school? And I would say, well, I would like to major in storytelling. And she'd be like, really? You don't want to just do the whole Eye of Newt medicine witch thing? Because that's a lot more, lucrative. But regardless, a master's degree in storytelling is wonderful. And we're going to get to know her a little bit. So let's chat a little bit with Ingrid Nixon.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
It is lovely to be
Hello. Hello. Oh, you are looking fine where you are at. Very nice. Very nice. And speaking of where are you at? Where are you at?
I am here in Southeast Alaska, where it is not hot at all. Yeah, envious of Jeff.
What time is it in Alaska?
Well, it is after 5 o'clock. Yeah,
5 o'clock. Okay, so wasn't quite sure what time zone that was. It was just its own time zone or something like that. And in addition to being an exceptional storyteller, you are a park ranger. Is that correct?
Well, I'm a park ranger for about 5 more weeks, and then I become a retired park ranger.
Oh, well, congratulations on that. Congratulations. Now, I'm curious, have you worked being a park ranger into some of your stories?
That has been known to happen. And then I have been known to, just kind of work with wherever I happen to be as a park ranger and use the magic of that place to weave into stories as well.
Okay, and have you used your storytelling superpowers on the job as a park ranger, maybe to sort of, mislead some tourists or scare them into not doing stupid stuff?
Well, that goes with the whole idea that stories are not true. So it really depends upon the audience that I'm working with. As a park ranger, I do try to keep it on the straight and narrow, but I also get to train staff so that they get to go out and use their superpowers to share stories.
Oh, that's good. I bet your staff and your park have the best stories of all. I bet you do. What is your favorite type of tale to tell? Personal, folk, lies, all tall tales?
That is a hard one. I mean, it depends upon your audience, I mean, here on a creepy night with a wonderful witch as our Emcee, haunting is called for. But, if we happen to be out on an expedition, history is the thing that pushes my buttons. So yeah, it really just depends on where I am and what the audience wants.
Yeah, as a stand-up witch, you got to be able to read the room, right? You got to read the room. It's very important. Read the coven. All right, well, let's see what Ingrid Nixon has in store for us tonight. I can't wait. Thank you so much. Let's bring her to our virtual stage. Welcome, Ingrid Nixon.
Well, just as Jeff's story took place on an island, this one does as well, near the sea. Now, if you go to Southern Ireland, you will find a little village which is known as Ballinasloe. And for centuries, from the 15th, 16th, 17th century, monks from all over Ireland would travel to Ballinasloe. And it was there that the men of the village would put them in boats and row them out to these rocky outcroppings offshore. And there the monks would spend time in holy isolation. And then when the monks were ready, the men would go out, get the monks, bring them back to the Irish mainland, and they would disperse all over the countryside. And there are some who believe that because of this holy traffic going to and from year after year, century after century, that perhaps the boundary between this world and other worlds was worn thin. For some, it is as thin as the mist that comes in off the sea. Now, Tom's father was a farmer, and one day he was digging a trench in the hillside above Ballinasloe. And as he was digging, suddenly the earth began to collapse. And before he realized it, there was suddenly a very deep hole that went deep into the earth. And as he stood near the mouth of that hole, he felt this hot air coming out of the ground. It was like hot breath. And coming out of that hole, he could hear, and it frightened him. And so he took a shovel full of earth and started to throw it into the hole, but then suddenly the ground began to tremble and rocks began to roll down the hill. And so Tom's father, afraid he would be crushed, he fled. And so that hole remained open on the hillside. And it was after that the people of the village began to notice strange things at night. They would be in their cottages and the mists would come around their cottages. And as they stood near the window, suddenly they would hear, or they'd be sitting by the fire, just enjoying a quiet night. And suddenly at the door, there would be scratch, 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 scratch. So the people began to talk. What was happening in the mists? And then there were the travelers, the two men who unfortunately were caught on the road at night by the mists. And what was done to their bodies was unspeakable. So after that, the people of Ballinasloe never went out at night when the mists were about. Now, Tom was a young buck. He worked on his father's farm and he did chores around the village, so he had a little extra money in his pocket and he went to the pub. He had a pint and then he threw some darts. And then he had a pint and then he sang some songs. And then he had a pint and then he had a pint and a pint and a pint. And finally Tom said, time to go home. But at that point, it was dark and the mists were starting to roll in. And the pub owner, he looked out and he could see the road. There was really only one road in Ballinasloe. And it wasn't that far to Tom's family's house. But as he looked down that road, he saw a wall of mist. And he said, oh, Tom, I can't let you go out. No, stay the night here, Tom. I don't know what I'd do if I let you leave this place. You walked home into that mist and something happened. What would I tell your father? And Tom said, nothing's going to happen. I'll be fine. I'm not scared. So Tom stepped out of the pub and began to walk down the road. And when he got to the wall of mist, because it was a wall, he looked at the mist and then he stepped into the mist. And he had not taken 2 steps when suddenly there was a man walking beside him. This man was wearing a rain slicker and he was wearing sea boots. And Tom noticed that as the man walked, the boots would squish as though they were wet. But the man never said a word. And as they walked along beside each other, Tom was like, who is this man? And finally he just said, well, who the devil are you? And the man said, oh, you should not use such words when you are out here walking in the mists. I am here to protect you. I will keep you safe. That's all he said. And so the two of them kept walking down the road, and soon Tom heard the sound of footsteps, or were they paws running up behind him? He would whirl around, but there was nothing there but the mists. And soon on either side of him, he was hearing but he looked in the mist, he could see nothing. And then there was a and with that, Tom flinched. And the stranger said, "Are you scared?" And Tom said, "A little." And the stranger said, "I'm here to keep you safe. But you need to know we're about to walk into the forest. And whatever you hear in the forest, it is not real." And Tom thought, forest? There's no forest between the pub and home. But as they walked along in the mist, he looked up, and sure enough, there were trees through the mist, branches hanging over the road, moss hanging down. And then he heard, "Tom, Tom. Oh, is that you, Tom? Tom, come here, Tom." It was a voice of sweet Marie. She was calling him off into the woods. Oh, he'd had a crush on her since he was just a wee lad. "Tom, come here, Tom. Let me give you a kiss, Tom." He felt the pull of his heart. He felt the pull of something else. But then he thought of what the stranger had said. This is not real. This is not real. And then the voice said, "Tom, I'm hurt, Tom. Tom, can you come and save me? Tom, I'm in danger." And his heart began to pound because Marie, she was in danger. I mean, what if she was injured? What if she died? Wait, this is not real. It is not real. It is not real. And then the voice began to curse Tom, saying terrible things to Tom. It was horrible to hear, said in the voice of sweet Marie. Tom put his hands over his ears and he kept walking. "This is not real. This is not real. This is not real." And then the stranger put his hand on Tom's hand and pulled it away from his ear. And he said, "Are you scared?" And Tom answered, "A little." The stranger said, "We're about to walk into the bog. This is the most dangerous part of the walk of all. Now, whatever you see, whatever you feel, whatever you do, don't run." So they continued walking, and sure enough, they were in a bog. And Tom was like, where did this bog come from? But then he saw ahead of him in the mist, there were figures moving back and forth. Sometimes they were on 4 legs. Sometimes they were on 2 legs. And suddenly he had in his ear this, and he could feel hot breath. And more than once, there was a sudden snap of a jaw right at his cheek. Tom's heart was pounding, but he did not run. He did not run. He did not run. He did not run. He just kept walking with the stranger. And soon Tom burst out of the mist. And there, 50 yards down the road, was his family's home. And he turned around to the stranger and he said, "We're home. You come with me. Come with me, have a drink, spend the night." But the stranger did not leave the mists. The stranger said, "No, Tom, you go home. I've been there before. It was a long time ago, and you don't remember me. But I have a message for your father. Tell your father that your uncle saved your life tonight. Tell your father that your uncle came from far, far away, halfway around the world to save your life. Tell your father that his brother Robert will not be sending money home anymore, for I have drowned at sea." And then the mists moved in. And Tom, he turned and he ran home. And when he got home, he woke everyone up, told them what had happened, told his father the message. And Tom's father ran out onto the road, and he looked every which way, but the mists and the stranger were gone. And it was after that the people of Bellenskelig decided they needed to seal that hole in the hillside. And so the men went up there with picks and shovels, and they filled that hole with dirt and rocks, and a priest blessed the spot. And after that, the people of the village were never bothered by anything creeping around at night in the mists. But Tom's father went out on the road whenever the mists were thick. And he walked and he walked and he looked to his side, ever hoping that he would see a man, and that man would be wearing a rain slicker and he would be wearing sea boots. Oh, how he yearned for one last walk with his brother.
To the market in the 1970s, supposedly Gere, which was done in gave way to
Thank you.
Oh, wow, 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 wow.
Wow.
Elegant.
Indeed.
Oh, good one.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
Whoa.
The Mist. Am I right?
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that story. That was great. I love it. It was just very sort of like calm, but that almost made it spookier.
Yes, very mystical.
Yeah, exactly. Very mystical. Cheers. All right. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. We've got some folks on YouTube. We want to acknowledge we got Judy and Chester and Jane and Donna and my elementary school witch school friend Christine is also with us. So shout out to you out there in Maine, which is a little bit close to Massachusetts, and that's witches. We're not really thrilled with the state of Massachusetts. I think you know why. If you've learned your history, we just had some bad things happen there. So we've moved to the West Coast, but we won't hold that against you, Christine. Anyway, thank you so much to all of you that are watching. I hope you're enjoying the show. We are going to keep it going. Next up in our thriller program is a duo, and they're very unique. They weave together the distinctive cultural elements of East and the West, and also a fusion between contemporary and ancient, and they just create new wonderful possibilities. They founded Eth-Noh-Tec in 1982 and have contributed greatly to the Asian American performing arts movement, and we'd like to get to know them a little bit. So let's meet the husband and wife couple, that is Nancy Wong and Robert Kikuchi Angoho,
All right.
otherwise known as Eth-Noh-Tec.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regina. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks
Glad
all,
to be here.
Thanks all of you for coming out.
Wait.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. And we've asked everyone, where are you and what time is it?
It is San Francisco. Oh, no. We're
San
not.
Francisco time is 6:37, but we're not in San Francisco right now. We're actually in the Pacific Northwest.
In
our
Orcas Island,
Orcas
another island.
the island.
Well, islands can just be spooky in and of themselves.
They sure can.
I mean, as Jeff showed us in the first story. You have a program that's called Red Altar, and you launched that in 2015, but it seems even more relevant today. And so I wondered if you could just tell us briefly a little bit about that program and maybe how folks can find out a little bit more about that.
Sure. The story is a multimedia story theater piece, and it is about my ancestors who came to America, to the West Coast in 1850 on a junk boat, crashed onto the Carmel Bay, and ended up staying and starting the fishing industry in Monterey. And it follows 3 generations and all the anti-Chinese stuff that they had to deal with, both legal and illegal, in order to survive and thrive. And so we've got a DVD. I've written the book. The manuscript is looking for a publisher. And Robert has headed a group of volunteers who have put together a curriculum guide so that the DVD and the curriculum go to schools a special rate.
Yes, Project Education Red Altars intended to get out into the schools so that young people, fourth and fifth graders, and also middle and high school can get to see this part of American history that has never been told before.
Right. I mean, everyone's heard about the railroad or the Japanese internment camps, but very few know about the fishing villages or the mining or the
At one time, in
agriculture.
the mid 1800s to the turn of the century, there were over 200 communities of Chinese Americans throughout the West Coast until the purges, the lynchings, the fire burnings, basically running them out because of white supremacy and nationalism.
Yeah, and that's why it's really important now because of all the anti-hate, Asian anti-hate stuff going on.
Yeah, and it sounds like just such a great way to learn that story. I mean, that immersion, the way that you do it, the way that you tell stories, it really engages. And I think people learn without feeling like they're being taught. They just learn by being part of that experience. And I think that really is the best way to gain knowledge. So thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. And I can't wait to hear the story that you've got for us tonight. So without further ado, let's bring Eth-No-Tec to our virtual stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you want to say
yeah. So, as we've been hearing a little bit about history and stories passed on to people, we're going to go way back to the 16th century. A Chinese writer in China named Pu Songling during the 16th century set up a roadside table and would have the commoners tell him stories. And he would gather these stories and write them down. Most of the people who told these stories were illiterate, but he wanted to capture the feeling of the folk life. And there was a story called The Painted Skin, which he wrote down, which then eventually through the centuries ended up in America. A Chinese-American writer, Lawrence Yep, turned this into a story.
And you have too.
Yes, and we have too. We've been inspired by those spirits and those ancestors to create this story.
What we call
The Dirt Ball. Long ago, in the Middle Kingdom, otherwise known as China, there in the mountains, down in the valley, down by a river, there was a house where lived the shopkeeper husband and his tailor wife.
Every morning we can watch shopkeeper husband sweeping the dirt in front of the shop while tailor wife puts out the many-colored spools of thread for the day's mending.
The simple life was peaceful, but oftentimes empty, for they were childless.
Oh, she bitterly wanted children. He did not.
Kids, bah, too much trouble. They never pick up after themselves. And these days, well, no respect for elders. Kids, bah.
Well, one day, while shopkeeper husband was sweeping the dirt in front of his shop, a small, frail child, a little girl, passed by, crying and crying her heart out.
Little girl, what are you crying for?
Well, she didn't answer that, and yet she returned day after day, crying and crying her heart out.
Little girl, what are you crying for?
Well, again, she didn't answer him.
Kids, bah.
So, on the fourth day, as she passed by, crying and crying her heart out, he grabbed her by the hand, looked her straight in the eyes, and asked,
Little girl, why have you been crying?
Well, this time she answered him and told him that she had been sold into slavery by her own parents so that she would not have to starve. But her master was cruel and worked her day and night and beat her to the bone.
Oh, the shopkeeper, as if under a spell, surprised himself and gave the girl silver coins so she could buy back her freedom, for that sweet young thing had captured her heart. Well, that sweet young thing offered to serve the old couple as a housemaid to pay back the debt of silver.
Well, the old couple welcomed her into their heart and into their home, and they called her Little Sweetheart.
Oh, for the days that followed. Little Sweetheart worked very hard to earn her keep.
She seemed to grow stronger day after day, and strangely, though, the old couple began to feel weaker and weaker.
Strange pain in my heart.
Oh, I will get you some herbal tea in the morning at the marketplace.
Well, the next morning, as Taylor's wife was at the marketplace shopping for herbs, she noticed a rather strange and unusually filth-filled man staring at her with a half-crazed look, all the while digging a hole in the dirt.
What are you staring at, old man? Is this not herbal tea for the heart?
It's the dirty truth.
Truth?
Some people would rather die,
Die?
than know the truth.
Truth?
Can you keep a secret?
Oh, wholeheartly.
Cross your heart.
And hope to die.
Your husband will
Die?
die. Soon.
What?
He'll be heartless.
He's been that way for years.
You're living with a monster.
He has his days.
No, I'm not talking about your husband.
Not little sweetheart.
Like I said, some people would rather die than know the truth.
She's just a child. Oh, where did he go? Who was that?
Well, as Taylor's wife was still at the marketplace, shopkeeper husband was coming home from work. The house was dark, except for a light in Sweetheart's room. Oh, Sweetheart, I'm back. It's me. I'm home. Sweetheart, is that you? Oh. Kids make the darndest noise, don't they? Sweetheart, I'm back. I'm... Green-skinned demon. Red bloody eyes. Long bony fingernail drawing a outline on parchment paper. What has this demon done with my sweetheart? What? Wait. That's not... It's slipping inside the skin. Oh, it's turned into Sweetheart. Oh.
Shopper, keeper husband, he ran to the neighbors and armed with knives, burst into little Sweetheart's room.
Out of our house.
But Father, what have I done?
Don't touch me. You're a monster.
Father,
no. For 3 days and 3 nights, the neighbors stood on guard, looking for any sign of that demon girl.
But for 3 days and 3 nights, they saw no one who looked like little Sweetheart. So,
by the 4th day, feeling confident that they had rid themselves of that demon girl, they thanked their neighbors.
Did you?
They locked up the house and went to bed. Safe, cozy, and warm.
And then they fell asleep. Suddenly, green vapor slipped under the crack of the door, eased itself across the floor and up the far wall, looming, evil, growing big over the edge of the bed. And out of the darkness struck a claw with fingernails sharp as knives and plunged. And it ate the heart.
The next morning, Taylor's wife lay dead, asleep. But as the sun began to rise, she stretched and yawned and turned towards her beloved husband in bed and...
My husband, he's dead!
Dead in bed, she screamed, dead in bed, out into the road. And once again, she met up with...
old man, my husband, he's dead, he's dead.
I told you so.
What?
Have a little dirt.
I don't want your dirt, I need your help.
You need magic.
I'll take your magic.
Wait, you need my help?
I need your help.
You need my help?
Yes.
You need my help? You got it! Something about a green-skinned demon slipping into the tiny crack of the door, pouncing upon your husband, ripping open his chest, and eating his heart out.
So you'll help me?
Too late. He's dead.
No, but I'll do anything.
Wait, did I just hear you say anything.
Yes.
Anything. Anything. Wait, I got something for you. Here. Here.
Oh, your dirt ball?
It's a big one.
No. Oh,
Eat it.
no, I will not eat your dirt
You
ball.
said
no.
you'd do anything.
No.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
don't make me- Somehow that old man, he just disappeared. Well, Tailor wife, hoping that somehow magic had happened, hurried home as quickly as she could. And when she got there her husband was.
Still dead in bed.
Oh, husband, I am so sorry. I thought the old man was an old master, but it turned out he was an old, dirty old man instead. And to think I ate his dirt ball. A living heart.
Quickly, she took that pulsing heart, plopped it into his hollow chest, and sewed him up with Tailor Speed.
Oh,
He lives.
He lives.
He breathes.
He breathes.
He lives and breathes. So, and for the days that followed, she nursed him back to health, and then returned to the marketplace to fetch more herbs. And once again, she met up with.
oh, old master, thank you so much.
You're not out of trouble yet, lady.
Oh,
You see that demon? He wants a taste of your husband's new ticker.
oh.
Yes. 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 Wait. I got something.
Oh, no, the dirt ball.
No,
No?
it's a bag.
A bag.
Just a bag.
A bag.
You got it?
Got it.
You got it! Brrr! This time when the demon creature enters your house, wait till he's as close can be. Stare him in the eyes. Wait to the very last minute. And when he's very, very close, did I say very, very close? Hold of the bag. The bag's magic will capture the demon. Instantly throw the bag and the demon into the fire. Into the fire!
Got it. Got it.
Oh, wait.
No.
But whatever you do, don't look inside the bag.
Got it.
You got it.
You got it. Oh, once again, the man, he just vanished. But this time he appeared high up on a cliff, digging a deep hole in the ground.
Dirt.
Well, once again, Tailor wife hurried home as quickly as she could, and together with her husband, they locked up the house,
Stoked the fire, went to bed,
bed,
clutching the bag.
and
Waited. Looming, evil, growing, bigger, over the edge of the bed.
closer. He's getting closer.
Stare him in the eyes.
Closer.
Don't look away.
Closer.
Wait till he's very close.
Now.
No.
The bag.
Vroom. Out of the bag, your magic hand grabbed that demon by the neck, thrashing about till the demon was yanked in the sack.
No.
Here, you hold it.
Ah, no. No.
Hey, there's nothing inside the into the fire with the demon in the bag, in the fire, up the chimney in a puff of smoke. Hey, don't do that.
And from above that mountain cliff spiraled green ash into the dirty palms of the old master.
Ooh, it's a big one.
He took that dirt ball, plopped it into the hole in the ground, covered it up with a mound of dirt.
Everyone's got a little dirt.
Hey.
Woo! Whoa. Excellent.
Whoa.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's a workout.
Whew.
Oh boy.
Wow.
A long time.
That story had everything in it. And I'm exhausted. I wasn't even telling that story. I gotta say.
You should try my side of it.
Yeah, I know. I bet. Yeah, we could all use a magic hand every once in a while. Am I right? I mean, especially if you're a parent. I'm a witch mom. You got to have like 3 hands to keep track of those kids. But thank you for that. That was wonderful. Very, very moving in a lot of different ways. Okay, we are up to our final storyteller. And we're going to get to know him a little bit. He's nationally known. He's toured all over. He's appeared in premier storytelling events, including the National Storytelling Festival. And he's a 4-time champion of the West Virginia Liars Contest. Now, again, I don't know if you can believe that, but there it is. It's on his resume. So we'll take it for that. And he is the inaugural storyteller in residence at Shepherd University. And that sounds great because I'm the inaugural witch storytelling in residence at Witch U. That Witch U, you ask? That you. Oh, I'll be here all week, folks. Okay, let's get to know our next storyteller. Let's talk a bit with Adam Booth. Hello, Adam.
Hello, my dear.
Lovely to see you.
And a perfect pleasure to see you.
Where am I seeing you at, by the way?
I'm on the island of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Since everybody else is in an island somewhere, I'm on the island of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Although I started the day down in North Carolina. It was a long day of travel for me.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm glad you made it back to your home base and into our living rooms. What is your favorite Halloween costume? We haven't asked that question yet tonight.
So my great-grandparents owned a furniture store, which meant that refrigerator boxes were a part of my childhood. And so one year I decided to go as the headless horseman, and a giant box appeared at our house, and I cut out 2 identical horses and stapled them around my body like this, and got a little cape and tied it around my head and put a bald thing on. I needed it then. And I became the headless horseman. And that was probably my favorite costume of my childhood. I mean, I'm only talking about me here.
That sounds like a great costume. Actually, kind of sounds like one you could, do again if you could get the boxes.
Yeah, with fewer parts, actually.
Yeah, wouldn't be quite as complicated, given what's going on up there. But you've been, obviously, you do shows in person. That's what you were doing, like all storytellers, prior to things going the way they went a year or so ago. And you've been doing now online. I'm just curious, your thoughts about whether or not the online platform is kind of here to stay, maybe in a hybrid model. I know in person will come back, but I guess the question is, do you think online is going to go away entirely?
No, I don't think so. I think that this is it's going to become another medium for storytelling, just like, when the radio was invented, it became another medium for storytelling, and television and movies, and now telling through the internet.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's just the next chapter as it's grown into. Well, we hope so, because we love being able to meet storytellers from all over and be able to meet audience members from all over. So it's really been wonderful for us here at 6 Feet Apart Productions. So we're happy you're here. And without further ado, let's bring you to our spooky virtual stage. Please welcome Adam Booth.
Thanks. I'm going to share a West Virginia witch story with you tonight. Lots of witch stories in Appalachia. And it's a story of a mother who lived with her daughter, and she was raising her by herself. And as an only parent, she had to make some sacrifices. And the biggest sacrifice she had to make was finding a job that fit her schedule in raising her daughter. And the only job she could find was one that went through the night. So not long after the sunset, she would leave the house and go out to work all night long. And then just as the sun was coming up the next morning, she'd come home back to the house. And usually she'd bring with her a little chunk of meat and some vegetables that she'd set into a stock pot with some water and set it on a low flame to cook all day. This was how she got around some of the difficulties of raising the daughter by herself. She could cook a nice stew on a low flame throughout the day while she tended to the rest of her duties. She made sure the daughter was up and off to school, and then she'd tend to the housework before laying down for a little bit and trying to catch a few hours of sleep before the daughter came home from school and they could spend some time together before she had to go back out to work again. Now, this whole situation, this whole setup worked out really nicely when the daughter was young, because that girl was just golden. She was as nice as you could imagine. She did everything her mother asked her to do. She was polite and right in line. But then, and this is where the story starts to become really scary, she became a teenager. And when she became a teenager, it was like a switch got flipped. That girl who had been so good now was just as mean as could be. And her mother would ask her to do something and she would back talk right to her. You don't control me. You don't own me either. I get to do what I want. The mother would give her chores to do. I'm not going to do it. And as she got older in her teen years, she took to calling her mother by her first name as if they were equals. When she became an older teen, there would be a knock on the door many nights during the week, just as it was getting a little dusky out. And when the mother opened the door, there would be several teenage boys. Is your daughter here? We thought we might take her for a walk down that way and spend some time together. And the mother would say, she's here, but she's not allowed to come out with you. She's staying here for the night. Now go on. And the daughter would push ahead of her mother and say, you can't tell me what to do, old woman. I control my life. And she'd look at the boys and say, I'll come out with you. You just got to wait till she leaves. She'll be gone for work here before long. Come back and we can go out for that walk. And the mother, as she was tidying up the kitchen, would mutter under her breath, what am I going to do with you? The girl had gotten out of hand. But like she had said, before long, the mother had left for work and the boys came back and they would spend the nights together doing things. And one night when the boys came back to collect that girl, she said, what do you want to do tonight? And the boys said, you know that old house that's down at the end of Taylor Street where the road ends? She said, yeah, I know that one where the pavement just stops and it's just grass there. And they said, yeah, you know that house right there looks abandoned. We heard that there's an old witch woman who does her magic in there. You want to go see if it's real? And she said, oh, buddy, do I? Let's go. They walked out in the dark of the night, down to that place where the street just ended, right into the grass. And there was that old house right there. And they looked up at it in the moonlight for a long time. And then the girl spoke up and said, well, should we go up and into it? But when she looked, the boys were running on down that road back towards their homes. They'd left her there alone. Scaredy cats, scaredy cats. I'll go up and look. I'll see if there's a witch woman in there. And up the 3 steps to the porch. She tried the door, but it was locked. And both of the windows on each side were covered with plywood, so she couldn't see in. Now it was a long house, and so she thought, I'll just go look in the side and see if I can see what's happening in there. So she came back down and around, and even though it was a long-sided building, there weren't many windows. She came to one and pulled herself up and looked into that house. It was empty inside. And I don't mean there was no furniture or anything. I mean, it was empty inside of the house. She could look up as far as where the attic should have been, several stories. She could see right up to the top of the house. It was like a shell of a house. She'd never seen anything like it. But she noticed there was a back door and a window next to it. She thought, I'm going to go in that back door and look around this empty house. And so she walked down to the back of the house and turned the corner and thought, I'm just going to peek in this window first. She grabbed a hold and pulled herself up. And when she looked in, she was looking right into a room now. It looked to be like a small study. It didn't make any sense because she just looked into an empty building. And now she was looking in a room, and there were bookshelves that lined the walls with books, and there was a pedestal with a lit candle, and a rug that covered the floor, and a chair right in the center sitting on that rug. It was a high-backed, a wing-back chair with fancy upholstery, and it was facing the other direction. And as she looked around trying to figure out where all this stuff had come from, she didn't notice that the chair was raising up into the air, just a few inches. And it began to turn towards the back of the house, toward the window where she was looking in. And sitting in that chair was a figure that had a head, but she couldn't see the face because there was a swirl all around it that was all at once both like wind and fire, and she couldn't see through it. And the chair continued to turn until it stopped facing her. And that thing began to raise one of its arms up like this, into the air, followed by the lifting of a knobby-knuckled finger that had pointed right at her. She took off running like that, back towards the house. When she got to her house, she slammed the door. Mother, mother, she called out, mother, mother. But her mother wasn't there. And she was so riled up, so worried. She thought, I need to comfort myself. I'll eat some of that stew. Stew's comforting. She had a bowl of stew and it didn't comfort her. And so directly she went on up to her room and climbed into her bed and pulled the covers tight around her and tried to squeeze into that space that was right up against the wall, facing the wall, as if there was nothing else in the room. And because she was so bundled up looking there, she didn't notice when, not long after, a thin wisp of smoke began to waft through the keyhole on her bedroom door. And that smoke trailed all the way across her room until it gathered under her bed and took the form of a cat, a black cat. Because, you know, witches can take the form of other things, and they can travel through the keyhole in your house. This is why all the old timers are always tell you to keep a key in the lock, even when it's not locked. And that cat came out, and it looked up, reared down, jumped up onto the mattress. And it moved so light that she didn't notice that it was there. And it crept up right behind her and reached forward one of its paws and touched that soft spot right in the back of her jaw. And she went to move, but she couldn't, because in that touch, that witch in the form of a cat had petrified her, frozen her still like that. And it leaned into her ear and said, "Don't ever come back to my house." And then she felt its bumpy tongue lick the lobe of her ear. And that wisp of smoke traveled back across the room and through the keyhole. And the girl was frozen in that place all night long until the sun came up the next morning. And just as the sun's rays came over the tops of the trees, the spell was broken and she was freed. And she had heard her mother come home, and she ran downstairs and told everything that she had done. She confessed right to her mother, and her mother said, "What? I told you not to go out at night when I'm not here. There's all kinds of powers out there that you don't understand. You got to promise me you'll stay home from now on." And as she set to her work, she muttered under herself, "What am I going to do with you, child? What am I going to do?" And when the day had passed and the mother left for work that night, well, she was a teenager, and you know how fleeting their emotions are. She'd already gotten over the fright of the night before and had actually decided to go back to that house just to look again. When she made her way down there and pulled up to the window on the back of the house and peeked right in, there was that witchly figure right there with the flame and wind all around its head, pointed right out the window. And she took off dashing back home. And when she went inside, she slammed the door, and then this night went directly up to the bed, jumped into the bed, huddled under those comforters and that one quilt. And you think she would have learned her lesson to watch the door. She didn't. And not long after that came that wisp of smoke. It took the form of the cat and came out. Came up behind her. And this night it took its paw and put it right in the center of the nape of her neck. And when it touched her there, they both lifted up like this and traveled right through a crack in the window. They were outside, and the cat said something right into the neck of that girl. And as it did, the girl was turned into a horse, because a witch can do this to you. It turned her into a horse, and the cat turned around facing the back and took its paw and put one of its claws down into the hindquarters of that horse, just barely pricking it like that. And the horse whinnied like this and took off a galloping into the night. And it ran up and down the hills and the hollers. And anytime it went to slow down from exhaustion, that cat just dug that nail in a little bit deeper. And the horse ran and ran until the moment before the sun came up that morning. And at that moment, they were back at the house, and through the window, and she was back in her form as the girl right there in the bed. But because she'd been run all night, she was so exhausted, she fell deep into a sleep, and the cat transformed back into the smoke and was gone. And when the mother came home, she went to check on her daughter, who was fast asleep, and she thought she must not be feeling well. And the girl slept all day until the evening came around. And when she finally woke up, she went down and she told her mother what she had done. And the mother, now, there is a witch out there, and I don't want you getting mixed up in witchcraft. So promise me you will not go out there again. Now, I'd stay here and watch after you, but I have to go. And she was gone. And the girl went back out that night, but she went out with a plan. See, she decided she was going to go to that house, and this night she would tempt that witch to come back to her bedroom, but this night she'd be ready. And she went down and looked in the window, and there was that figure right there. And she said, "You want me? Come and get me. You know where to find me." And she took off running. And when she came into the house, she stopped in the kitchen and opened the drawer with the knives in it. She took out the biggest, sharpest. It was her mother's butcher knife. And she went upstairs and got into the bed and covered up that butcher knife with the comforter and the quilt and looked towards the door, knowing what would come through just moments later. The cat crept up right next to her and reached out its paw to touch that place and said, "I told you not to come back." But she threw off that cover and she brandished that knife like that. She grabbed the cat by the paw and swarp like that, cut the cat's paw right off. The cat fell down to the floor and she held that paw there. She hadn't planned anything past this part. And as she held the paw, it quickly unfurled and turned back into a woman's hand, that witch woman's hand, and she dropped it and it fell right on her chest. And she saw it there, and the cat had reappeared on the bed, and it took its remaining front paw and reached out and touched her right there, and she was frozen. And it said, "I told you never to come back there. And now look what you've done." And she could feel the cat's claws starting to poke that soft flesh as it leaned into her ear and said words that she never expected to hear. "What am I going to do with you, my child?" And the next evening, there was a knock on the door. And when the mother opened the door, there were those teenage boys that often came by, and she looked at them. "Hey, we were wondering, is your, what are you cooking? It smells good. Could we have some?" And all she did was nod toward the table. The boys came in and sat down and watched as the mother went to this large soup pot and ladled out 3 bowls of stew that she brought over one at a time and set there in front of them. And then she brought spoons, and as they started to eat their stew, they noticed that she'd been carrying them one at a time because her other hand was wrapped up in a bandage. "This is good. Never had anything like this. What'd you put in this?" She didn't answer. She just watched until they ate to the very bottom of those bowls, and the stew was gone. And then one of the boys said, "Oh yeah, is your daughter here?" And all she could say as she looked at them was, "No, she's not."
Oh, whoa, creepy, creepy, creepy.
Oh my gosh. That was creepy.
Whoa,
Oh my gosh.
creepy ending.
Adam, that was, and it just this is why witches get a bad reputation. Am I right? I mean, I'm just hang on. I got a little dinner. I hate when I overcook it, right? What can I say? Thank you, Adam. Thank you for that. That was spectacularly spooky. I want to thank all of our storytellers, of course, and also the backstage audience. I want to shout out to Linda and Alan, who dressed up tonight. Yay! Got with the festivities. Thank you so much. Let's thank all of our storytellers. I'm going to bring them back one at a time, and we'll start with the man who started it off tonight. Let's bring back Mr. Jeff Gere. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you? Got your hand? I know, right? Exactly. I haven't eaten yet. Oh, Jeff, what do you have coming up, Jeff?
After this, I'm not going to be doing anything ever again. I'm just basically done. This is the highlight of my whole life, and nothing can top it. I'm, flat and simple.
We get that a lot. But on the off chance that you do something, I think people can find out at jeffgere.com. Is that where you're landed?
Sure. Or just send me an email. But I may not answer.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. Nice that you warn us. Okay. And let's bring back Ingrid Nixon. Yay.
Fun night.
What a night. Exactly. Very, very fun. And Ingrid, what's on your plate? What's coming your way besides retirement? Congratulations again.
Well, I'm going to leave this creepy stuff behind me shortly, but join me for some lies in November. You can find out about it on my website, ingridnixon.com.
I would love to hear you tell some lies. It sounds like a wonderful evening. All right, and certainly third up, we had Eth-No-Tec. Let's bring back Nancy and Robert and find out. Yay! Here they are. Okay. Wonderful. Let's find out what's on the agenda for you, the near horizon for you.
Well, we're going to be in the Kansas, you mean in terms of storytelling?
Yeah, well, or whatever. I mean, if you need to go pick up some dry cleaning or something that,
grandchildren.
We're going to finally clean the house. We have time for that now. And, what else? The garden. You have to close up the garden because it's winter. And then we're going to go back to San Francisco because our daughter's expecting her first child. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Grandpa and grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should be great grandparents, but
keep that grandkid away from the witches or away from Adam.
Yeah.
And speaking of Adam,
away from Adam.
Yeah. Speaking of Adam, we'll bring him back up and find out what he's got going on. Hello, Adam. Hey. What's new for you?
I've learned some new stew recipes recently.
Excellent. Let me know if you need a hand with that. Storytelling wise, on Tuesday, I'm going to be telling for the University of Hawaii, a program of Appalachian stories. Wow.
10 Hawaiian time, which is 4:00 Eastern, and there's math in the middle. And I have actually a few cool opportunities this next month where I'm going to be telling stories with a wind ensemble at several times at Marshall University on the other side of West Virginia. And I have to clean out my garden as well, because it's past time here and everything's looking scraggly.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. The part about the wind ensemble, the gardening, not so much, but no, that sounds like a great way to hear a story. Well, again, thank you so much for all of you for being here. I'm going to bring on my co-producer, Claire Hennessy, who is not a witch, but there she is with a spooky background, and I'm going to let her talk for a bit.
Well, thank you all. Fantastic stories, Adam. I'm going to have to give you the bill for my psychiatrist after that one. I'm not going to sleep for weeks. So yes, I'm just going to tell you what we've got coming up. Our next show is going to be an open mic story slam on the theme of starting over, and that's November the 10th. Anybody can sign up to tell a story. We have the winner actually of the last one here, Colleen, she's with us in the audience, and that's on November 10th. Then on the November the 18th, we're very, very honoured and delighted and thrilled to have the amazing Odds Bodkin come and tell quite a long story. He's going to tell a 25-minute story. And with him on the show is the incredible Charlotte Blake Alston and fellow Brit Simon Brooks. So that's November the 18th. And then on that date, we're going to be also telling you some other exciting news to do with the odds. So definitely come and watch that show. And then on December the 8th, we are having another open mic, which is on the subject of Snowball Out of Control. So there are all our shows coming up. We might even squeeze another one in December. We're not sure yet. But the exciting bit of news we have now to tell you now is that Regina and I have been working our fingers to the bone And we're going to launch on Monday Patreon. Now, for those of you who don't know what Patreon is, it's a subscription-based model, which enables artists mainly and singers things to get paid, because we never really get paid very much. So it'll launch on Monday. There's 6 different tiers. It's anything from $3 upwards. So we'll tell you all about that some more. But in just a second, there's a little video, a fun video that Regina and I created that we'd like to play. It's only a minute long, so that will explain a little more what it's about. Here's the video. We're chuffed to bits to launch our very own Patreon. I can hardly Adam and Eve it. We think it's the bee's knees. We're going to bring you brilliant videos, behind the scenes corkers, and loads of other stuff, which will be nectar to your Toby jugs. No naff rubbish here, mate. We're not telling porky pies. We've got everything but the crown jewels.
Okay, what Claire means is we're delighted to launch our 6 Feet Apart Productions Patreon page, and we can hardly believe that we've managed to get it done. Through Patreon, you'll have access to breaking news, behind the scenes exclusives, swag, and most importantly, our Patreon community. We've got private Facebook page. We're going to have a monthly Zoom get together, all with like-minded storytellers and story lovers.
We started Patreon because we were fed up with being skinned. So any Arthur Ashe we get, we'll keep the bailiff from the Roger Moore. And we'll funnel some of it back into our shows down the Frog and Toad.
Okay, well, tennis stars, James Bond movies, and amphibians aside, what Claire means is that storytelling is not really a very high-paying profession, as most of you know, and the money that we get from Patreon will help us improve our show, keep our show going, and more importantly, pay our well-deserved storytellers just a bit more.
We're looking forward to some fun banter with you guys, perhaps a lovely cuppa and a biscuit, maybe a glass of wine or two, although we don't want to get pissed.
What Claire means is we are looking forward to getting to know you, our Patreon community. We'll have a cup of coffee, a cookie, maybe a couple of glasses of wine, but we don't want to get drunk. I might be pissed right now. Who knows?
We hope you take a butcher's at all our different tiers and perks. Try not to get too knackered. All right, catch you all later. Cheerio and doodaloo.
So take a look at our Patreon levels. Hope you don't get too tired, but find one that works for you and join us. There's so many things that we have to offer, from private Facebook page to the opportunity to tell a story on our show. You might even be able to help us produce a show and get one of these really awesome 3D printed 6 feet apart production stage. So join us. We hope to see you there. Toodaloo. Oh, wait, I mean, goodbye. Claire's rubbing off on me.
Thank you. And hopefully I am rubbing off on you, Regina.
Yeah, right. I'm going to start talking in Cockney slang.
No. I have been teaching you to swear, though, haven't I?
I know you have taught me to swear. I say yes. I won't repeat it, but I say
don't repeat it now.
That's all I can say. But thank you. So thank you that we're excited about that. We're launching that on Monday. And I want to say thank you again to our YouTube audience. And by the way, on YouTube, if you came late or had to leave early, you're not hearing this at that point, but if you came late, that link will work to watch the show in its entirety again, or you might just want to go back and see some of these stories again, because they were certainly that good. So thank you very much, YouTube. And also thanks again, backstage audience, backstage Zoom folks. Hello. All right, and we are going to be out of here. Safe flying.
We're going to say have a bit of a party, but lovely to see you on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. We loved it.
And thanks, Tech Guru.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Bye.
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.